Dell. Onto the track near the wall, leaps up and got it. Makes the catch for out number 3. Olsen. On he goes. Pushes it out towards center field. That's smoke. That is going to be into the bushes. A 2-run home run for McCutchen. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Here's another 3-2 going again as Soto hits one high in the air, right center field. Brinson near the wall, leaps, and he makes the catch! Lewis Brinson makes an unbelievable catch over the wall in center field.
Oh, all right. Welcome into this very latest edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. Of course, I am your host, Kevin. And we have a full lineup here today. And joining us after a couple of weeks' absence, we've got Vince, the host of the Sports Stove podcast that can be seen throughout the universe, I believe. So, Vince, it's good to have you back. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, man, good to be back. Sorry I've been gone the last couple of weeks, but ready to talk plenty of baseball.
Okay, and we have plenty to talk about. And, of course, we've got Dan. He is the Belly Up baseball department head. And as you can see, Philadelphia fan, so you know what he's going to be talking about today. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Probably the first time this season the Phillies have given me something to be happy about over a 3 or 4 day stretch. So I'm doing about as good as I can be doing.
All right, and not to be outdone in the Phillies department, we've also got Nick here, and he is coming off a TSS Fantasy, which is back in business, right, Nick?
Yes, we are. We just had our premiere of season 2 this past Friday, which I was not on because I was moving. But yes, we are back and better than ever, my friends.
Okay, so. Yeah, that's right, because you let us know that you're in the midst of a upgrade, I believe it is, right, Nick, of your home?
Major upgrade. Basically, the only thing that is left.
I saw the picture, so we know that you've got some major work going on over there. So we hope that's all going well for you. And of course, the first thing that we need to talk about is our sponsor, which is intheclutch.com. We've been talking about them for a couple of weeks now. You know that they have a lot of baseball stuff out there, a lot of retro. There's multiple sports on there, and it's all officially licensed. And best of all, if you go on there, don't go, like I said, right now on this, pay attention to our show. But as soon as we're done here, get over to intheclutch.com. And when you order, make sure you put Belly Up Fantasy in the code to get your 10% off your entire order. All right. Having said that, there were some other things I was going to talk about first, but of course that got kicked to the curb when the news came out Friday that Joe Girardi out as the Philadelphia Phillies manager. What's that? Was that not Friday? Was that Thursday? Thursday. Okay. So Thursday it came out, and we've got, as I said at the top, we've got 2 Philly guys here. And so my question, I'm going to start with you, Dan. Did Joe Girardi deserve to get fired, yes or no?
He was certainly not doing a good job managing the Phillies. Now, the Phillies were not a perfect team. There were obvious holes defensively and in the bullpen. But Joe Girardi wasn't making the most of what he did have, which was a good lineup. And there's a lot of questioning how much a manager actually impacts the team. And frankly, there's not really a way to measure it. If there is, I don't know what it is. But Joe Girardi was not helping the Phillies win baseball games. And he probably wasn't coming back next year anyway. So at this point, it was probably the only thing that might save their season. It could turn out to that they don't make the playoffs anyway, but then you just get a new manager and you just get rid of him and you make the fan base happy. The fans clearly didn't like him anymore. They wanted him out, and it might have put a spark in the team. They just finished up a sweep of the Angels. Who knows how much Rob Thompson has to do with that?
Tonight too, you can be sure about that.
But it certainly looked like the right move 3 games in. Who knows what we'll be saying about it come July or especially the end of the season.
So Dan, so in other words, according to you, your reaction to this news is this right here.
Enjoyed it.
So is that a fair assessment?
He had been fired. Hearing that he had been fired brought joy to me. And that's the simplest way I can put it.
Okay. All right. So Nick, what say you? Joe Girardi, did he deserve to get fired? Yes or no?
No, I don't think he deserved to be fired at all. I'm going to allude to Dan when Dan said that it's what the fans wanted. Well, there's an old saying in sports: if you keep listening to the fans, pretty soon you're going to be sitting with them. Okay, so I don't think he should have gotten fired. I really, really don't. I think Dombrowski should have gotten fired. I think the executives who put this crappy bullpen together should have gotten fired. All right, it's always the manager's fault. It's always the coach's fault. I understand that the players, they have to have accountability. Okay, but I heard a stat the other day. They were the 21st best bullpen. Nobody's going to win with the 21st best bullpen. I mean, he could have, to Dan's point, okay, they shuffled the lineup a little bit, but do they really have a true leadoff hitter? No. Was there consistency in the lineup? No. Sometimes you have Schwarber leading off. I couldn't see Schwarber as a leadoff man, but hey, when was the last time you saw Babe Ruth lead off? I allude to that because they're about built the same. Then you had Rhys Hoskins lead off. The short answer is no. He shouldn't have gotten fired. I think that the firing came right at the time because the Angels are now on a 12-game losing skid. What are you gonna do? Fire Joe Madden now?
11.
I mean, 11 now.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I think today was 12. But my point is, the manager is supposed to start and end with him, right? Or her, depending on what sport it is. But I mean, you got to look at the people that put the team together. Holy crap. I mean, there's got to be some accountability too. And, I took an interest into looking up Dave Dombrowski's track record as well. Yeah, he did well with Detroit. He did well with Boston. He did well with Miami. But again, at the same time, I mean, he's not doing well with this club. And plus that, they did not build up the minor leagues. So I don't think Joe should have gotten fired. I don't think they're going to be a contender right now under Rob Thompson. Rob Thompson's probably saying the same thing that Joe Girardi did. Okay, they just caught the Angels at the right time on a skid. So come talk to me like Dan said. Come talk to me in July when they're playing the Mets again, when they're playing the Braves, when they're playing the Marlins. Okay, those and then Washington. Those teams in their division, if they're beating them, okay, I'm not ready to say that Joe deserved to get fired yet.
All right, so Nick, according to what you're saying, this is your reaction.
You had that queued up, didn't you?
Okay. So, Vince, what is your reaction to all of this?
Well, in Nick's argument of why Girardi shouldn't be fired, he explained how badly put together the batting order was, which is the manager's responsibility. Gigi Segura, is he the greatest leadoff batter ever? No, not necessarily, but he fits, especially how he's hitting this year, 275. He'd fit in a good spot as a leadoff spot. He's a decent number 2 guy, and they've had him different places of the order. At the end of the day, as a manager, you're paid a lot of money to take the players that are there, develop the ones that need to be developed, and put in the right order the way they need to be put in order. And he failed to do so. As a matter of fact, in his time in Philadelphia, he's under 500 in the 2 1/3 season that he's been there. I believe he's something like 13 games under 500. In his time in the NL, he's under 500. The only time he's been over 500 was when he was with the Yankees, and they had, of course, had a absolutely stacked roster most of those seasons as well. Do other people deserve to be fired too? I would say yes. But yeah, Joe Girardi wasn't doing the job. And in professional sports, the players, you don't have the players' ear. There's just no reason for you to be there. And what he's doing wasn't working in Philadelphia, and it was time for him to leave. And Nick asked the question, should you fire Joe Madden because of the skid he's on? I say 100% yes. Move on from him too. So the players are not reacting or living up to their potential. Yes, they've got to take some ownership of that, but the coach obviously isn't working. He's not doing what needs to be done. And that Philadelphia roster, as bad as they are, especially that bullpen, they should still be above 500 right now. And last season they finished 2 games above 500. That whole division is atrocious, right? Atlanta's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Philly's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. The Mets are the only ones achieving what they're supposed to be doing. But at the end of the day, I say Joe Girardi, as harsh as it is, he deserved to lose his job. Not saying he should never get another job again, but it wasn't working with this team. He didn't have the locker room's respect at this point as the manager.
Go ahead, Nick.
Hey, one more thing. 2 things actually. Philly had a Philly guy before. They had a rah-rah guy. They had Larry Boa as the manager, and we saw how that turned out. Okay. And another thing, I saw Lenny Dykstra put out a tweet, make me the manager. Yeah, that's the last thing that we need to see is Lenny Dykstra in charge of anything except
a car crash. No.
Car crash or a illegal card game ring. Yeah, we can put him in there for that.
All right, so
he's gone like 4 years without getting arrested.
Okay, so as this is, this is a fantasy show. So, and you mentioned that what's the name of the guy that took over? What's his name?
Rob Thompson.
Okay, and what is his background? Is he a hitter? Is he a pitcher? What is he?
I do not know. I will find out, but I know that he was the bench coach for a couple different tenures in Philly. I think he was with Charlie Manuel too. Why don't they just bring Charlie Manuel back? I mean, he seems to be like the best manager since Dallas Green. So just bring him back. I mean, it doesn't matter who they put in there. Philadelphia is not going to be happy with anybody.
He was a pitcher and third baseman in the minor leagues for the Tigers.
So he's the hitter. He's the hitting coach. Is he the bench coach? Is that what he is?
He was the bench coach from what I heard.
Okay, so fantasy wise, does this change the prospects of any of Philadelphia's hitters or pitchers, Dan?
Probably not. I believe he's went with the only thing that we've seen in the 3 games is lineup consistency, and he's gone with the same top 6 in all 3 lineups against the Angels. So that's probably the only thing you're going to get. Maybe Bryson Stott gets more bats, but that's probably also a side effect of Gene Segura getting hurt. But not really, especially for the hitters. They need to hit better. Everyone other than Bryce Harper has been pretty disappointing this year.
All right, so Dick, is that how you see it?
Pretty much. Like I said, I think it's going to be a short-term fire starter. I don't think it's going to carry out through the rest of the season. Now we did see Stott had a big game today. He hit that walk-off 3-run home run, and then Harper had the slam in the 4th. But again, it depends on how these hitters are getting pitched to. You just can't say, oh, well, pluck Joe Girardi out of there, and then you just put someone new, and then miraculously we all learn how to play baseball again. So, I mean, you got to use some common sense too. So I think it's going to be in the short term. It might perk up the team, but my thing is you need consistency. If let's say if someone needs to be consistent and hit in the same spot every time to get a groove going, leave him in there. There's too much shuffling of the lineup. That's the one thing that I did disagree that Girardi did, and the fact that he was very complacent. He wasn't very fiery behind the microphone.
Okay, so one of the topics that we were going to talk about tonight was managers on the hot seat, of which he was going to be, but he's completely burned into the atmosphere. So Are there any other managers, Vince, that you think that are on the hot seat as we sit here right now?
I think there's three that should be. I don't know if they are or not. Tony La Russa in Chicago. Again, a team that's just underachieving. I actually talked with Graham Wallace, our friend from Belly Up Sports and Jace Journal, earlier today. And, he said it, the same thing. He's kind of lost the locker room, and his approach isn't working in Chicago. Time for him to move on. Scott Servais in Seattle, another team that's underachieving greatly. Almost made the playoffs last year. Came in with high expectations this year, made moves in the offseason. It's not working in Seattle. And then the third one is the one we already talked about, Joe Madden in L.A. I think as respected as he is as a baseball manager, the talent level that's there this year and them not being able to reach the playoffs under him, they've got to do better. And I don't know that you can do better in name than Joe Madden, but you've got to be able to find somebody out there that can get in control of what's going on in L.A. and get them over that hump.
Yeah, hopefully you bring in a manager that's not walking somebody with the bases loaded. So, so Nick, any other? Do you concur with Vince on the three guys he mentioned? Do you have anybody else?
I do concur, and you can throw in Dave Ross in there from the Cubs too, because I know they had a fire sale, but Chicago, that baseball town. And they're not too far removed from winning a World Series. And plus that, when you're behind the Pirates, things have got to change. Okay, so they are 2 games behind the Pirates. And then another guy you want to throw in there too is Bob Melvin and Buck Showalter. I mean, these are three big time managers that should have the pulse of their team, and apparently their team is not listening. So let's get rid of them too. I mean, that's just the way we are. We want to win yesterday.
Right. It seems to me you might not want to hire some of these guys that are like 85 years old to be able to relate to the players of today. So
I don't defend Cubs very often, but if I may, I think you've said it, when they blew up that roster, baseball, a rebuild doesn't go quick. And Ross, I think, is a good manager. His first year there, he got first in the Central. But not great last year and definitely not good this year. But again, you think about all the players they lost, the superstars, the all-stars, the savvy vets, all that kind of put in there. I think it's tough unless, again, the players don't like them. Some of these guys that are losing right now, I think you have to be a little patient with, especially the younger managers that are in a rebuild situation. Unless the players don't like them. If the players don't like them, you got to get rid of them because they're not going to play for them. So you either got to get rid of the player or the coach. It's easier to get rid of one person versus 9 guys. So, man, that hurts me just to stand up for anything.
Yeah, as a Brewers guy, I can imagine why that just hurts you right to the innermost parts of your being.
That's why I'm patient with them, because I'm a Brewers fan. Who knows?
Okay, all right.
You want to stand up for Alex Cora in Boston?
No, I don't.
No. I'm not standing up for him. You standing up for him, Dan?
I'll stand up for David Ross a little bit.
Well, yeah,
they're
David
not
Ross,
the best.
yeah.
I don't think they were. For the other ones, no. Tony La Russa, I thought he was a bad hire when they hired him.
Oh yeah,
for a team like
it was
the
a
White
mystery
Sox
to me when they did that from the start. We're talking about guys that
they
were
were
85, literally. Isn't he in his 80s? Or he's got to be.
No, he's 77.
He's up there.
77. Okay,
77.
Either way, how do you relate to a 19-year-old when you're 77 years old?
Grandparents do it all the time.
Well, yeah.
Well, sugar and cookies is not going to make baseball players play any better there, Vince.
Chicken did in Boston. You just never know.
That's right. Chicken worked over there for a little bit. So just one other guy I'd like to throw into the mix on this subject is A.J. Hinch over there in Detroit, because there was a lot of talk about how Detroit was going to be a competitive team this year. Oh. They are 21-33, and he's been there. This is his 3rd year there now. Obviously, it is not working in Detroit, so I would put him on the hot seat. Maybe not imminent hot, but it's getting hot to me. Because
first of all,
Detroit has just been awful.
Kevin, did you think Detroit was going to be a competitor this year?
I don't know if they were going to be a competitor, but I thought they'd be, right around in that just above 500 level.
Really?
Because they had some young players in there. That I thought were going to develop, and they really haven't. And so
they're where I thought they would be. I didn't see them having a good season yet. They still need to add more pieces. They've got one or two starting pitchers. They've got, a couple guys there in the order and stuff, but they're still a long way off from having a complete team to compete. Now that division's not great, so I'll give you that. But boy, that one surprises me. I'd take AJ Hinch, not over Craig Counsell, but I'd take AJ Hinch on a lot of teams right now.
Okay, so we'll see how that works out. So I wanted to throw a couple things in there. One of those is the subjects that we talked about, Dan and I did on last week's show. And Vince, I know you talked about it on your show, and that is the subject of Gabe Kapler and his stance on Memorial Day. And I was on this very show last Sunday imploring with Gabe Kapler, please don't do that on Memorial Day. And he did not. So just as you did, Vince, I'm going to give him the props. I think he deserves that he gave the people that, gave so much for this country their proper place. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. And so, Nick, you weren't on last week. And so what did you think about, first of all, his whole thing, the protests, and then what he did on Memorial Day?
I had a big eye roll. I'm kind of over it with these guys. Say, oh, I felt like a coward. I should have been out there. Dude, you manage a baseball team, okay? You saw what happens to players and managers who go against the grain and do what the owners don't like. So you're digging your own grave. If you want to fall on your sword, go for it. But I don't know what his protest is going to do. I don't think it's going to spark a movement. I don't think it's going to do anything highly relevant. Right, I don't think it's going to do anything highly relevant. So you can voice your opinion, and if you want, stay in the dugout, but don't do anything. Don't do anything on the field. That's the thing. Don't do anything on the field, because that's where you're going to get in trouble. If you want to stay in the dugout, stay in the dugout. I don't know what MLB contract is. I don't know if it's where you have to stand on the field, because I know in the NBA, in the rule book, it says you must stand at a respectable behavior during the national anthem. I don't know what it is in the NFL. I mean, in MLB, it just wasn't. It wasn't always like that in the NFL. The NFL didn't start doing it until the armed forces started paying them to do it like 10 years ago. So, but if you're going to do something like that, do it on your own. Stay in the dugout. Don't pull something on the field, because that's when you get to bring attention to yourself you just narrowly don't want.
And that's one thing that's bothered me about all these athletes right from the very beginning, because they are doing it on their employer's time. They're doing it with their employer's uniform on, and they're doing it on, private property. And I work in a building that houses a U.S. senator. I saw 2 protests this week alone. So I can say for a fact that if I, on my company's time, was to grab a sign and go out there with the bullhorn, they could fire me, and they'd have every reason for doing that. And so I don't, whatever their stance is, free speech, that's great. I'm all for free speech. However, there is always a time and a place for that. And so, Vince, I know that you've spoken on this topic. So is there anything that you'd like to throw in there?
Well, first of all, I too very proud that Gabe Kapler, I think he made the right decision, especially on Memorial Day, to go ahead and stand out where people could see him for the national anthem. And I think that what he said proves the point that I've tried to make, which is it is disrespectful to the military men and women that serve the country. I am 100% against anthem protests, but I'm 100% for the right to protest. So I don't agree with it when they protest, but I believe they have the right to do so. I just think that they should have been smarter about it because the other sports, and it's going to hurt them too. But again, it's their right, and I don't argue against that. I just disagree with it altogether. But the question being asked about Gabe Kapler on Monday, the fact that he came out and understood the importance of it, I applaud him for that, and I think it was the right move. And and like, I don't remember if I said it on my show or not. Gabe Kapler, most people don't know who he is. His staying in the dugout isn't going to do anything, like Nick said. I think they have a microphone at the end of every game. If you want to make a difference, you have a better chance to make it there than hiding in the dugout. But Gabe Kapler, former Phillies manager. What do you expect? No.
And Texas Ranger outfielder.
That's right.
That's true. That's very true. And as someone that was in the military, if Gabe Kapler had protested on Memorial Day, there was no shred of respect I would have for him ever again, or anyone else that protests on that day. You will never get my respect ever again. So if you're watching, of course you're watching because you see me talking right now, just know that I have a very hard stance when it comes to subject like this. So, all right, having said all that, let's move on to another subject that Dan and I talked about, and that is this whole thing about fantasy football and baseball and everything else. And, we talked about this as far as the incident that happened between Pham and Peterson out there. And so, Vince, real quick, what is this like the silliest thing of all time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, now I'm a fantasy football commissioner in 2 leagues and a fantasy baseball commissioner in 2 leagues. It's a hard job. Ungrateful players just always whining and complaining. It's a hard thing to do. Here's one of my thoughts on Tommy Pham. I think he needs to be cut. Cincinnati Reds are one of the worst teams in the league. Kansas City's right there with them. And they got a guy running around before games slapping a dude over a 1-year-old little fit about fantasy football. Come on, man. You're Major League Baseball. When it happened, you were mad, but play baseball and focus on baseball. Pham's one of the better.
Doesn't this make it look silly that you have a player, slap another player on the playing field on camera, and all he gets is a 3-game suspension? What is going on with this?
I don't care about the suspension. The slap didn't look that severe. Whatever. Suspend him. That's fine. But honestly, if I'm the Reds, I cut them. I say, we don't need this. This is stupid. And we can find somebody else to play that position. And it doesn't matter if they're better than Tommy Pham or not, because the Reds are no good. So just move on to somebody else that wants to be there and is focused on baseball.
So, Nick, what's your because you weren't on last week either. Dan and I talked, like I said. What is your reaction to this? And does this make Mike Trout the worst, fantasy commissioner in the history of mankind?
No, I'm sure there's much other worse fantasy commissioners out there. I think the thing that happened, I think it was pretty hilarious myself, because it kind of, in a weird way, it kind of allowed the little people to see that celebrities get involved in that stuff too, and it's comical.
You get about fantasy sports, others do it also,
and it's comical because I'm sure that it happens in everyday people's lives as well, and it's just as funny. But when it happens between 2 grown men, actually 2 pro baseball players, I think it's even funnier. As far as being a commissioner, I know it's a hard job because I see mine do it all the time. You know who my fantasy commissioner is. He's got a hard time. He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and then sometimes myself, I peck at him, but I mean everybody else pecks at him too. No, it's not an easy job. But also think of it this way: they're paying a lot more money to get involved with these leagues than we are. And and when you speak about money, Vince, you just can't cut a player because there's going to be financial retribution behind that too. So
$7 million, they can afford it. No big deal.
Okay.
I
think it's a comical, and it was something funny to laugh at, and then for 5 minutes, and then go on about my day. So I really wasn't losing sleep over it.
No. So Dan, we talked about this last week. Is there anything new you'd like to add to all this?
Well, not really. I mean, Mike Trout, I don't think his press conference went especially well. I think people probably took it too seriously because he seemed to be laughing about it. His quote, "All commissioners get booed." That was
saw
great.
that.
I
I
think he
saw
was
that
kind of
comment,
pointing the finger at Rob Manfred with it too. But no, this is a ridiculous story, and and I can't believe that Mike Trout's a fantasy football commissioner. Apparently, he didn't even want to do it. So I don't know how you force someone to be a fantasy football commissioner and then blame him
I guess
when
maybe you lost the dice
he doesn't
roll. I don't
handle
know.
something the way you want it.
Hey, Dan, it's been my experience that a lot of fantasy sports commissioners don't want to do it, but everyone wants to play, but they don't want the responsibility. So they said, all right, fine, I'll do it. That's how it worked in our league. So, yeah, that's the way it is.
All right. So the last subject in baseball that I'd like, because we're in June, it's hard to believe we are in June already. And so next month is the All-Star game, which will be in Dodger Stadium, interestingly enough, it's on July 19th. So, and there are always players that either should be there that aren't, or shouldn't be there but are. So, are there any players, Vince, that go to your top of your list that you do not want to see at this point in the All-Star game?
I don't know about do not want to see Juan Soto, maybe. But I don't know. I think I was looking at it. The AL
maybe they don't deserve to be there. Maybe fans want to see them. That's why they're there, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the AL has more statistical leaders this year than the NL, so it'll be easier to pick the AL guys. There's a couple of different, guys that are worthy of it. I guess the NL is going to be really interesting because it's not the superstar names that you normally think of over there. That should get, like, for instance, Ronald Acuna. I don't think he should make it. He hasn't played up to it at this point, but he's a name. And he's probably going to get the nod more than likely because you're looking at guys like Sterling Marte or Jerkson Profar, statistically should be there. But, will they put those guys in? I'll say Trevor Story, who had a slow start, but his stats, his numbers are the top second baseman in the AL right now. So I'm not sure. He's got the name. He's in the right town, but he had that slow start. So I'm curious to see where that ends up.
Trevor Story ought to, take us all out to dinner or something because we defended him when he got booed that week. Remember in Boston a few weeks back, and then all he did that week was hit what 3 home runs. He's hit like 5 in 1 week, and he just exploded ever since that we went to bat for him. So, Trevor, come on now, we'll take gift cards. We will. So yeah, so I'm with you on that, Vince. Dan, Are there any players that you think will probably be there, but should not be there?
Well, Vince mentioned him in Juan Soto, and we'll talk about it later if we get to our first round redo.
Yeah.
Picked him in the first round, and
I swear we're going to get to that. So,
and he's hitting 232 this season.
That's
and you knew the RBIs were going to be down because there's not really anyone hitting in front of him, but you were expecting him to hit 300 to get on base at 410 and slug over 500, and he just hasn't done that this year. But because of the plainly idiotic that even the Royals have to send an all-star and even the Nationals have to send someone to the all-star game for no reason, Juan Soto's probably going to go just because he's one of the most popular players in the sport.
Yeah, Josh Bell's more deserving.
That's the player I thought I would mention just off what you said, Dan, that Josh Bell should be the representative from Washington this year. And fortunately for me, he's on my team. So, all right. So, Nick, any players that you're thinking will be there, but they should just leave them, at the side of the road?
Yeah. Before I get to that, I think the whole rule about each team's got representative.
That's silly.
That's what the dumbest rules ever.
Say that like the team that's hosting the game should have somebody there. But
Yeah,
besides that, you don't need a player from every single baseball team that's 19 and 56 or whatever it is.
So, like this year, let's take the Reds. The Reds are going to have an all-star, and they're going to bump somebody out who deserves to be there. But because of the rule, I don't.
Tyler Stevenson deserves to be there.
Okay,
I can buy that. I can buy that.
Okay,
I
so
can buy
all right,
that.
so there's going to be some team out there with some player on it that
I
doesn't
think that
deserve to be there,
yeah.
and they're going to bump some. I keep going back to the NFL for like 10 or 12 years straight. The Chicago Bears never had an all pro because they don't have the rule, because they don't deserve to be there. But to get back to your question, one guy that I'm going to say that might surprise you guys is Vlad Guerrero Jr. I don't think he should. Yeah, he's got 12 home runs, but he's not the best hitting first baseman out there. He's batting .253. And
That's
he's
way
got
down, way down.
Yeah. So I mean, but because he's a name,
Yeah, but
and
he's going to be there, and you know who should be there, Nick? Is Ty France over him. Ty France is hitting .347.
Well, but what else?
He probably won't be there.
He's got good batting average. He's had a good season, but that doesn't make him an all-star just because he has a good batting average.
Right.
Rizzo should start, in my opinion.
Well, Rizzo, he was on fire in April. Then he went absolutely ice cold in May. Now he's heating up again a little bit. So
now,
he needs a little bit more consistency to his game.
Now, see, if you want to go, we'll just take this one step further. If you want to take the first base debate, who should be the starter? It should be C.J. Crone.
C.J. Crone should absolutely be at the All-Star game.
Because he's got 14 home runs, and he's got batting .295, and how many RBIs does he have? I don't know.
Well, he had 40 when I was looking
40.
at this. He might have more than that as of today, but he's got 40
because he's
RBIs,
not a big name. He won't get voted in. And I understand it's the fans' game. I know it was created. It's the fans' game, but sometimes the fans get it wrong.
Well, yeah, fans get it wrong.
Absolutely, the fans get it wrong, frequently. So, just a player that I'm going to throw in there that shouldn't be there is Salvador Perez. He's been awful this year. He's been hurt. And unfortunately for you guys, a couple of Phillies, Real Muto should not be there.
Oh, he's terrible. No.
He's been terrible. And unfortunately for me, Max Muncy should have absolutely nothing to do. He should be locked in his home, so he makes nowhere near Dodger Stadium during the All-Star weekend, week, because he's been terrible and injured, but mostly terrible.
Kevin, I'm sorry. Yeah. Nick, I'm sorry. Okay, Crone can make the All-Star game. I'm fine with that. But he shouldn't start in the All-Star game. Right?
No. We're not talking about starting. We're just talking about be there.
Okay.
Well, I said starter, so
yeah. Okay, then I'm back.
I'm not gonna go to that. Link to that to defend him as a starter. No.
I'm sorry, Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt should be the starter.
Goldschmidt,
yes,
is the starter. Let me just read this real quick. Goldschmidt, he's hitting .349 with 11 homers and 44 RBIs, and I don't know if he had a hit today or not, because he had a 25 game hit streak going on over there. And so if you put anyone else but Goldschmidt's name down as your all-star first baseman in the National League, just take that ballot and just flush it right down the toilet.
What about the Polar Bear?
Polar Bear, he could be there. Now, we're not talking about him being a starter. I saw him today playing the Dodgers. He looks great. Okay?
DH.
So,
yeah.
But as a starter, no way.
I've got him as my starting DH.
Starting DH? Okay.
Yep.
Well, we're going to need to see the ballot on that to see who, because in the past, there was no DH on a ballot in the All-Star game for the National League.
Yeah.
So,
if
that's the way it's going to be, then absolutely put him down as a DH. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to move into the realm of fantasy because, as we always talk about, this is a fantasy show. And as we just mentioned, it's June. Back there in April, when we were doing this fantasy baseball live draft, we took some players. And so I thought it would be neat to, after 2 months, to take a look back and I had the first pick in this draft, and I took Shohei Ohtani, but of course, and even though he has not been so far the Shohei Ohtani that he was last year, there's no way that you can take somebody else with a head-to-head league pick with the first, pick and not have it be Shohei Ohtani. So I do not regret that pick whatsoever. This other league that I'm in, I had the 7th overall pick, and I took Freddie Freeman. He's having a good year, but it hasn't been a great year. I could have taken Betts over him. I could have taken your guy, Vince Burns, over him. And that would have worked out, I think, better. But as they say, 20/20 eyesight and all that stuff. So, Vince, if you had your chance to retake your draft, who are you taking this time?
Well, I took Trey Turner. He's 18th right now in batting stats. I'm happy with him still. I wouldn't get rid of him. But Manny Machado would probably be a guy I'd look at that number 8 spot.
Manny Machado, I took him in the 2nd round. I'm praising all that's holy that I got him.
Yeah, that'd be my big thing. Pitchers in our league that we're in, pitchers are scoring a lot of points. So if I had to redo it, I'd probably go with pitchers. But I would not go with Shane Bieber, who was taken in our first round, but who's 34th in pitching points right now in our league. But that's where I would lean. But Machado's a guy that I liked and I didn't take. But I was big on Trey Turner too. So, yeah.
Okay, so Dan, who did you draft, and would you draft him again this time?
Well, I took Juan Soto 3rd overall, and no, I would not take him again. He's not even the 3rd highest scorer on my team, let alone in the entirety of our league. If I had to again, obviously hindsight's 20/20. I'd take Jose Ramirez. He is the leading point getter among hitters, if we don't count Shohei Ohtani, because he gets points as a pitcher.
Right. That's kind of
cheating.
cheating.
He's just hitting the ball. He's keeping the Guardians near 500 with basically no one else of note in the lineup. And he went 5th overall in our league, and that was a heck of a to get Jose Ramirez. I probably would have decided early on draft night, but he certainly proved everyone wrong, and that's I'd go with Jose Ramirez at 3 if I could do it again.
All right, so Nick, who did you pick, and would you pick him again?
Well, funny story. I was actually late to my draft because I actually had forgotten about it, and they had auto drafted me. Some guy named Corbin Burns. I never heard of him, but he's doing pretty well for me. He's 7th ranked in my position. He only has 188 points, so But the
That's
first
what I'm
guy
talking about. I would have taken him as well at number 7 overall.
The first guy I actually picked was some named Aaron Judge. So I'm pretty happy.
You can't argue with that either.
I'm pretty happy with him. He's the 1st overall ranked at his position. So I'm doing well. And with the 3rd pick, I remember Vince talking about some dude named Willie Adames. So my first 3 picks I was very happy with. Except
Willie Adames,
as of late, because now he can't walk.
Him pre-show, he's supposed to be back off the IL on Tuesday, isn't that right, Vince?
Yeah, he's back on Tuesday.
Okay, because I've drafted him in a league, this other league that I'm in, and he's been on the IL, so I'm looking forward to Tuesday getting him back on the field.
Dan won't trade me Willie Adames.
Yes, he told me.
No, I'm not going to take. I'm not going to take Kike Hernandez and Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, we're all hip to your hijinks.
That's not going to do it.
Make me an offer.
Hey, is there a guy out there? Let's do it on the flip side now. Is there a guy out there? I know, Kevin, you weren't prepared for this. Is there a guy that you did draft and now you're kicking yourself? Like, why did I take him? I'll start to give you guys some time to think about it. Okay. I took the old thorn on my side was Max Muncy. I thought he was going to be a steal because last season he did nothing but produce, especially late down in August and September. I thought he was going to carry that over. And man, if I can kick my own shins, I would, because I'll tell you what, he has been absolutely terrible. And any owner that owns Max Muncy, I feel your pain because I'm living with it too. And unfortunately, as I said many times before, I can't trade him. Nobody wants him, and I can't drop him and pick somebody else out because he's out producing everybody else that's available. So, this guy. So, I guess who's ever ready? Dan, are you ready?
To answer your question,
Kevin's got it.
Nick, it would be Justin Turner that I drafted. We're staying with the Dodgers. Dodgers are my team. Everybody knows that. But Justin Turner has not been consistent all year long. I took him, and it hasn't worked. There are we talk about how the third base is a very shallow position, and I took him, and I could have got somebody else higher up at third base and been a lot better off if I'd done that. So, Vince, you want to field that question?
Probably Whit Merrifield. It would be one I'd look at, although he's starting to come around a little bit. Adley Rutschman, probably, actually. I drafted him. I stashed him.
Yeah,
I
questioned you on that right off the gate.
We talked about him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did. And
now,
if you want to go ahead and pick him up now, that might be okay. But
no, it's not. I've got him on my team still. It's not okay.
Okay, yeah, because the Southern League, I picked him up too, but I quickly realized, I've got Dalton Varsho on my team, so no, he's got to go. So, Dan, who did you draft that you're like, oh man, what did I do here?
Well, we've talked about him a couple times over the first 2 months of the season. Marcus Simeon, he's been bad.
We
he's
talked
still
about
been
him
bad.
Up and down the wazoo last week. So yeah, but he did hit another home run, Dan. He did.
Yeah, he hit a home run today.
He could still save your season.
That gives him. That gives him a 4 on the year, I think. Not even 2. Is it 2? Is that it? We've talked about both of his home runs.
Second home run that he's hit, and so as far as I know, I haven't seen the returns for today yet or anything. But
it was his third home run today.
Well. Okay.
His average is still under 200, and I picked him in the 4th round. So I was expecting this guy to be.
So that.
Yeah, not good. He has not been good. That's for certain.
So that's going to lead me right into the strategy right here about. Go ahead, Vin.
We can't pass through redrafts and not talk about Dan D'Amico and Dale Stover's Rhys Hoskins, Cody Bellinger debacle. I pulled up the stats real quick.
Okay, because we have not talked about that since you weren't here to update us on this. So go ahead.
Dad stole Rhys through glitches going on at ESPN. Dad stole Rhys from Dan. So Dan had to draft Cody Bellinger or somebody, but he chose Cody Bellinger. They're actually not that different so far this year. Bellinger, 6 home runs, 21 RBIs, batting .210, has 6 steals, 77 points in our league. Rhys has 8 home runs, 25 RBIs, batting .218, 0 steals. He's got 86 points on the league. So they're not that far off, Dan. I hope that makes you feel better.
Probably not, because you could have drafted somebody else beside either one of those two guys and been a lot better.
Like a Rowdy Tellez.
Rowdy Tellez, even though he struck out 4 times, Vince. What is really going on here?
4-star general.
We can't be having 4 strikeouts in a game. He's got to, get it together.
Yeah, he's allowed to have a bad game every now and then, right?
Okay, as long as it's every now and then. All right, so we're coming. I wanted to talk about this real quick about strategies when you're talking about, do you sell a player? He's really producing, and do you try and sell? Get somebody. Hey, I can get somebody for this guy, or do you ride it until it comes completely crashing down? So, Vince, you want to field that question first? How do you? Because you're the trader guy in our league. So how do you go about evaluating players that you think you could trade and get a lot for, or do you hold on to them?
I will hold on to them and use them while they're doing well, with one exception. If there's a stud player that is having a down moment, and I'll try to trade for that. But in most cases, people aren't giving up stud players, big name players, even if they're having a down bit for a guy that was, drafted maybe in the late rounds and still only owned by 80-something% of leagues. But even though he's having a great year, most people still won't let go of the big names for that guy. So I'm going to ride them out until they start declining. Then I'll try to trade them. If nobody will trade them, then I'll drop them.
So, Dan, do you echo that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think a good to put names on this is that right now Mike Trout is like 1 for his last 30. But before Taylor Ward went on the IL, no one was giving up Mike Trout to get Taylor Ward.
Right.
So I think that's probably where it is. And Mike Trout's probably an extreme because he's one of, if not the best player in the sport. But I think that echoes what Vince was saying, is that even though Taylor Ward has been unbelievable before going on the IL, you're not going to give up a proven commodity even though he's struggling for a guy that is having a season. And I agree with that.
So, Nick, you want to wade in?
Yeah, I would say it depends on your situation. I mean, is a trade, are you going to do a trade just because you want a guy? Like, I'm going to use my thing. If I'm in a good situation, but, I want Bryce Harper, and, whether I can get the deal or not, is it worth going after? Now, if I'm at the bottom of my division, and I'm just gonna have a fire sale just to throw any type of mud that's gonna sling up on the wall and stick, I would do it, because I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is to win. So, if you're the top and you want them just to have them, what's the point of doing it? I mean, you're doing well enough anyway. So to me, it depends on your situation, but odds are, I would always say go for it, because even if you are at the top, you want to put as much space between you and your competitors as there possibly can be. So I guess I'm going to say you always go for the better trade.
That's right. Unless you're, of course, if you're dealing with Vince, then you got to proceed with caution.
You can always counter my offer.
A player that I've seen that I have in my other league, as I mentioned. That's right. So it was being recommended that you try and sell off Manny Machado, which I think that is absolutely insane.
Yes.
Who does that?
Insane. I'm not doing that. This is not Kevin speaking, okay? This is a strategy that I was reading online of players to sell high. Manny Machado's name was among those, on that list. I think that is absolutely insane, because, like I said, I spent a second-round draft pick on this guy, and so it's not like somebody I'm going to ride till the and then sell him off. He's on my team to the very last breath.
So I got asked. I have Machado in a league. I got asked, what would you take for Manny Machado? So I sent back 5 players that I would take all 5 of them for Manny Machado. And he said, that's a really high ask. I said, yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Who are you, Von Hayes? 5 for 1?
I will trade him. I'm happy to trade Manny Machado, but I'm going to get back quite the haul in return to get to the point where I don't have to drop anybody the rest of the season with the haul I'm going to get. So you have to be crazy to let him go.
Right. When I talk about somebody that I'm going to try and sell highs, let's perchance somebody I got off the waiver wire.
Yeah.
And that's somebody that driving him into the ground is not that big a deal, because you got him off the waiver wire to begin with. But if someone was to come in and offer me somebody that was, up there that I got off the waiver wire, I would look at that. But most of the time, I'm going to ride this guy, especially in a league like we're in, Vince, where it's 10 guys.
Yeah.
There's always somebody on the wire that you can pick up that can help you. And so selling high is not something that I'm looking to do very much. All right. So let's switch over this. Vince, give me one guy that we should be looking to pick up off the waiver wire right now.
Let's see here. One guy, I like Jace Peterson. I know I'm a Brewers fan, but Jace Peterson, first, second, third, and outfield eligibility. He is getting regular playing time right now. Luis Urias has been dinged up. Adames being up some stuff as well. So there are options for him, and he's hitting the ball really, really well right now. He's not going to be on your team the rest of the season, but if you're looking to add somebody, maybe you got injured guys or whatever it may be, I think Jace Peterson's a good guy.
Okay, so Dan, who are you looking to pick up this week?
Frank Schwindel. He's owned in 56% of ESPN leagues, so he's not wildly available, but he's got eight home runs this year, 6 of them in the last couple of weeks. So he's a guy that's really hitting well right now, and if he's still available in your league, he's a guy that doesn't strike out a lot, gives you decent power, and gives you a pretty high average, all at first base, and has DH eligibility if your league is a DH position.
All right, Nick, who are we looking to pick up?
All right, so in my league, I got Abraham Toro. He plays second, third, and DH. He's got 71 points on the season, and he's got 49 total bases. So if you need a guy as a filler, I would pick him up.
Who you got,
Okay,
Kev?
so one guy that I'm going to throw in there is, in fact, a pitcher for my local Texas Rangers. That's John Gray. He's pitching tomorrow, and he's going to have a 2-start week. He's coming off the 7-inning when he gave up 1-1 on 3 hits with 12 strikeouts. And I recommended picking up Ashby last week, Vince, for the same reason. He wound up having 2 starts, and it's pitched extremely well.
Yeah, Peralta's out for a long time. Ashby's going to be
Peralta's out. So, and I saw this, Vince, that Ashby is still available in our league.
Yep.
That's kind of wacky to me, but he's out there. So if he's out there in your league, you don't have to rush to get him because he's not going to pitch till Friday, I believe it is. So, but he's out there. If he is, go get him. And all right. And so we're coming to the end of our show, and I want to give everybody a chance to say what's up and where we're at out there. So Vince, we know that you've got your show. So what's the story with Vince?
Tune in, wherever you get your podcast, the Sports Stove podcast, the episode that drops tomorrow morning. A lot of baseball talk. Had Graham Wallace on. Great stuff there. So check that out at Sports Stove on Twitter and Instagram.
All right, Dan, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter at DanDomingo14. You saw some pretty happy tweets on Thursday when Joe Girardi got fired and the ensuing 3 Phillies wins. Also follow Belly Up Baseball on Twitter. Always got good stuff coming up there.
All right, Nick, what about you?
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at Penn Flanders, and you can find me on tssfantasy.com. And we also had Mike Westhoff as a great interview. If you're into football, check it out on tssfantasy.com, or you can go straight to YouTube. And as always, you can find me here at Belly Up Fantasy Baseball Live. And go Phils.
That's right. And you can always find me at Kevin62 WILSEA. And Belly Up is having a special NBA show coming up this week, which I am a part of that. And later in the month, there's going to be a special draft extravaganza with Belly Up. So there are a lot of things going on. Check us all out there. And everybody, have yourself a great week. Glad you tuned in, and we'll see you the next time.